Marcus Calloway had buried 3 men with his own hands and never once felt his pulse rise above a whisper, but the moment he saw Daniela Reyes laughing across a candlelit table with another man, something inside his chest cracked open like a door kicked off its hinges. He stood frozen between the mirrored pillars of the restaurant, his men flanking him, arms crossed, waiting for an order that never came, because for the first time in 15 years, Marcus Calloway did not know what to do with his own heart. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in love that sneaks up on people who least expect it, smash that like button right now, drop a comment telling us you're rooting for this story, share it with someone who needs a little hope tonight, and subscribe to Shadow Boss Tales so you never miss a story like this one. And before we go any further, tell us in the comments exactly where you're watching from tonight. We read every single one, and we want to know how far this story has traveled. Daniela Reyes had worked for Marcus for 4 years. She organized his empire from the shadows, kept his secrets locked tighter than any vault, and absorbed his temper on the worst days without ever once raising her voice back at him. She was not the kind of woman anyone in his world called beautiful out loud. She was heavy-set, soft in the middle, with laugh lines carved deep around her eyes from years of smiling even when nobody was watching. The men who worked for Marcus whispered about her sometimes, cruel little comments passed between cigarettes, and Marcus had shut every single one of those conversations down without ever asking himself why it bothered him so much. He told himself it was loyalty. A boss protects what belongs to him, and Daniela belonged to his organization the way a favorite blade belongs to a soldier, reliable, sharp, indispensable. He told himself that every time she stayed late reorganizing his ledgers, every time she brought him coffee exactly the way he liked it without being asked, every time she remembered his mother's birthday when he had forgotten it himself. He told himself it meant nothing that he noticed the way her whole face changed when she laughed for real, unlike the polite smiles she gave the men who underestimated her. That night, Marcus had only come to the restaurant to meet a supplier, a small business matter that should have taken 20 minutes. Instead he found himself standing in the doorway of the dining room, watching Daniela in a deep red dress he had never seen her wear, her hair falling in soft waves over bare shoulders, sitting across from a man in a navy suit who looked at her like she was the only person in the entire restaurant. The man reached for her hand across the white tablecloth, and Daniela tilted her head back and laughed, easy and unguarded, in a way Marcus realized he had never once managed to make her laugh in 4 years of working beside her every single day. The feeling that rose up in Marcus's chest did not feel like jealousy at first. It felt like drowning. It felt like watching something he never knew he owned get taken out from under him without warning. His men noticed the change in his posture immediately, the way his jaw locked, the way his arms folded tight across his chest like a wall going up brick by brick. Nobody dared to speak. In their world, silence from the boss was more dangerous than shouting, and every soldier standing behind him understood that whatever was happening in Marcus Calloway's mind right now was a storm nobody wanted to be caught inside of. Marcus had grown up in a world where weakness got you killed. His father had taught him that love was a liability, that the men who fell hardest for a woman were the men who ended up buried fastest, betrayed by their own softness. Marcus had spent his entire adult life building walls around anything that resembled tenderness, and yet here he was, a man who controlled half the city, undone completely by the sight of his assistant enjoying a plate of pasta and a glass of wine with someone who was not him. He told his men to wait outside. He walked toward the table alone, and Daniela looked up first, her smile faltering the instant she registered who was standing over her. She had never seen Marcus outside of business settings, never seen him in anything but a suit meant for intimidation, and the sudden collision of her 2 separate lives left her stunned into silence. The man across from her, a mid-level associate from a rival family named Victor Alden, straightened in his chair, sensing danger before he understood its source. Marcus said only that he needed a moment of her time, his voice flat and controlled in a way that fooled nobody at that table. Daniela excused herself, her heart pounding, unsure whether she was about to be fired, threatened, or something she could not name. They stepped away from the table, into the quiet hallway near the coat check, and for the first time in 4 years, Marcus Calloway did not know how to begin a sentence. He asked her, almost accusingly, who that man was. Daniela, stunned by the intensity radiating off him, explained that Victor was someone she had met 3 weeks earlier, someone kind, someone who made her feel seen in a way she had almost forgotten was possible. She admitted, quietly, that she had never expected her boss to care one way or another who she spent her evenings with. The words landed on Marcus like a blade between the ribs, because she was right. By every rule of their relationship, he had no claim over her personal life, and yet the thought of losing her to another man felt unbearable in a way he could not justify to himself. Marcus stood there in the hallway, surrounded by the soft murmur of the restaurant and the distant clinking of wine glasses, and for once in his life he let his guard drop completely. He told Daniela that he had never once thought about what she deserved, that he had taken her loyalty for granted year after year while she quietly held his entire world together, and that watching her laugh with someone else tonight had shown him something he had refused to admit to himself for far too long. He was not angry at her. He was angry at himself, for 4 years of blindness, for mistaking her steady presence as something owed to him rather than something he needed to earn. Daniela's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall in front of him. She told him that she had spent years convincing herself that a man like Marcus Calloway would never look twice at a woman like her, that she had made peace with being invisible to him in every way except professionally, and that hearing him say these words now, after everything, felt like both a gift and a wound at the same time. She admitted that some nights she went home and cried from exhaustion, not because the work was hard, but because she gave everything to a man who barely remembered to say thank you, and she had learned to stop expecting more. The weight of her honesty hit Marcus harder than any bullet ever had. He realized in that moment that his empire, his money, his reputation, none of it had prepared him for the simple, terrifying vulnerability of telling another person that he needed them. He asked her to give him a chance to be better, not as her boss, but as a man who finally understood what he had almost lost without ever recognizing he had it. Daniela did not answer right away. She walked back to the table, sat down across from Victor, and finished her dinner as if nothing had happened, leaving Marcus standing in that hallway with his heart exposed for the first time in his adult life. The following weeks were unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. He found himself unable to concentrate during meetings, replaying that night over and over, wondering if he had ruined the one good thing in his life through years of careless neglect. He began noticing things about Daniela he had never paid attention to before, the exhaustion behind her eyes some mornings, the quiet strength she carried when dealing with dangerous men who underestimated her, the way she still smiled at him even after everything, though the warmth in it had dimmed slightly, guarded now in a way it never used to be. He started small. He began thanking her, genuinely, for things he used to take for granted. He asked about her life outside of work, her family, her dreams, things he had never once cared to ask in 4 years. He noticed how surprised she looked every time he remembered a detail from a previous conversation, as if she could not quite believe this version of him was real and not some temporary performance destined to fade. Slowly, cautiously, the walls between them began to shift, not because Marcus demanded it, but because he was finally willing to be patient, to prove through consistency what his words alone could never fix. Victor Alden did not disappear quietly. He was a proud man from a rival family, and word eventually reached him that Marcus Calloway had feelings for the same woman he had been courting. Rather than stepping back, Victor escalated, showing up uninvited at places Daniela frequented, pressuring her to choose him quickly, using the leverage of his family's name to make her feel cornered. When Marcus learned of this, the protective fury that rose in him was unlike anything his men had witnessed before. He did not raise a hand against Victor, though every instinct in him screamed to. Instead, he did something far more powerful. He gave Daniela the space to choose for herself, refusing to let his own possessiveness turn into the same controlling behavior he was trying to escape from Victor. It was that restraint, that quiet respect for her autonomy, which finally broke through the walls Daniela had built. She realized that Marcus was not simply chasing a prize he had almost lost to another man. He was genuinely trying to become someone worthy of her trust, someone who valued her as a person rather than a possession. One evening, Without any grand gesture or dramatic declaration, Daniela showed up at Marcus's office long after everyone else had gone home, carrying 2 cups of coffee exactly the way they both liked them, and sat across from him in silence for a long moment before finally telling him that she was ready to see where this could go, on her terms, at her pace, with no promises rushed and no mistakes repeated. Marcus felt something in his chest unclench for the first time since childhood, a tightness he had carried so long he had forgotten it was even there. He told her, honestly and without performance, that he did not deserve a second chance after everything, but that he intended to spend every single day proving himself worthy of the one she was giving him anyway. Daniela smiled, the real smile, the one Marcus had first seen from across a candlelit table and had spent weeks aching to earn for himself, and in that quiet office, surrounded by ledgers and shadows and the weight of a dangerous world neither of them could fully escape, something new and fragile and beautiful began to grow. If this story touched your heart even a little tonight, please take a moment to like this video, drop a comment below telling us which part moved you the most, and share it with someone who still believes that people can change when they are given the chance to. Before we close this story, we have one special request for you. Tell us in the comments what you would have done in Daniela's place, faced with a powerful man finally admitting he had been blind to what mattered most. In the months that followed, Marcus Calloway became a different kind of boss, not weaker, but steadier, a man whose empire was no longer built solely on fear but on the quiet, unshakable loyalty of a woman who had once believed she was invisible to him. Daniela never became someone she wasn't to earn his love, and Marcus never asked her to. She kept her soft laugh, her heavy-set frame, her fierce independence, and Marcus learned, finally, that the strongest thing he had ever built was not his territory or his reputation, but the trust of the one person who had been standing beside him all along, waiting patiently for him to finally see her. If you believe every person deserves to be truly seen, and that even the coldest hearts can learn to love without conditions, make sure to subscribe to Shadow Boss Tales, because stories like this one are exactly why this channel exists. Thank you for watching until the very end, and we will see you in the next story.